What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency Podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and all you already know. Hold your applause, Mr. Sean Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in Long Island, New York. Mr. Fitzgerald, a few weeks I'll be down there bugging you in a little bit.
Dude, I can't wait. I can't wait to grab dinner and show you how good the downstate New York food really is.
My expectations are not high. That's okay, though. Super excited. Going to go down to the Hawks Off Regional Meetup that happens to be in Long Island and said, maybe I'll stop by the old Sound Harbor headquarters and do some work there the day before. So looking forward to that. What I'm really looking forward to is this discussion we have today. Our friend Brian Mahon is on, and he's the owner of Igloo Insurance. Brian, how are you today? Appreciate you taking the time to join us.
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
I want to paint the picture a little bit for everybody. Brian is 2 months into his Scratch Agency journey, so you want to talk about Scratch of Scratch. Here we are.
The scratchiest.
He's already got some merch printed, though. I need one of those next. I'm just saying. I'll give you my address when I'm done. But I want to touch on real quick because we met for the first time and connected at the podcast meetup we had in DC a few weeks ago. And
yes.
We started the day by going around and giving introductions. And, hey, I've had my agency for 3 years. I've had my agency for 10 years, whatever. And Brian's like, hey, I've had my agency for like 30 days. And so I just think that was super cool because we had an array of different journeys in the room. And I think you got a ton of value still out of it. But I just wanted to see, what you thought of that being so new and being in that room with a bunch of great people and great conversations.
For sure. Yeah, honestly, the Scratch Agency podcast meetup in DC was worth every penny. I told my wife. It's funny, I ended up kind of booking it in like April, knowing I was going to start the agency in like May, June, July. So yeah, in a few days here, we'll be kind of 90 days in to the Igloo Insurance journey. But the meetup, I left it feeling like I had much more clarity around like what I'm supposed to be doing and when and where and why, because you guys say it all the time, and I've been a big listener of the podcast the last 6 months or so, digging through both old episodes and new episodes. There's a million ways to skin a cat, and I've already put the tactics that all different agencies who are at the meetup use to see if they work for me in Igloo, and I think some of them will and some of them won't, right? So yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we're going to try some internet leads in September. We did a local fair TV giveaway that one woman who ran an agency in a rural area from the meetup said she does tons of those and has a ton of success, and I don't think that was for me, but we did it, and yeah.
You got to try these things, right? I mean,
sure.
I'll put myself in the hot seat a little bit. I've talked about Billy Williams all the time, and I know Sean has done coaching work with him, and I have a monthly call with him, and I kind of came to the monthly call now. We just hit like 3 years, and a couple weeks ago I listened to a podcast of Hermosi's, and he was like, everybody needs to treat their business in 3-year seasons, and then slapped me right in the face. And I'm like, man, I just feel like this next chapter of the next 3 years from the first scratch of 3 years is such a different chapter than that was, and there's different challenges. And I talked to Billy about it, and we went over like, of course he's got everything on a playbook and everything, and different forms. Sean and I can laugh about that, but about like how many different ways there are to do the marketing in this. What do you want to do? How do you want to market yourself? How leads, community, all those things we talked about. But I think it's important when you're doing scratches to dabble yourself into a little bit of everything and see what works, and then dive into that.
Sure.
So I commend you for taking the leap to try that all out. We kind of put the cart before the horse there. Let's go back to
C5. I gotta just add something to what you said, because I think there's just something I've been thinking a lot about recently too. Is you mentioned the 3-year season thing, and I think why that's so hard for entrepreneurs specifically, and scratch agency owners, is because we're conditioned to, on a daily basis, be like, okay, what's next? Okay, what do I got to do next? And like, I was literally thinking this week, I'm like, I don't know, what is today? Tuesday, Wednesday. So literally I did the same thing Monday and Tuesday. And this Wednesday morning, I was doing the same, like just working leads, working with the team, working leads, service, working lead, and I'm like, man, this just feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And then in my head, I'm like, Sean, it's been 3 days. Like, relax. Be
Yeah.
patient, stay consistent, build the momentum. So I love that you brought that up, because I think it sounds so easy. Oh, just, build a plan, stick to the plan, build the momentum, stay consistent. It's so tough. And that's on a 3-day period. So yeah, imagine what you could do sticking to a 3-year season. So I love that you brought that up.
So Brian, let's back us up. It's past before June of how you got to this point to start your own scratch agency. What has been your career up to this point that's led you to day one at Igloo?
Yeah, like most people, my dad wasn't a producer. My mom wasn't an underwriter. I grew up in the state of Delaware. Went to University of Delaware, and the year before my senior year, I actually studied abroad in Australia. And part of the trip was all these, executives from DHL and Salesforce and all these businesses would come in and talk to the class. And I met a guy named Conrad with a K. He was a Kiwi. He was from New Zealand, and he said, "Oh, I just invested $50,000 of my own money in this little startup called Avatar Brokers." I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And what it was a U.S. subsidiary of an Australian parent company, and they were 100% commercial, independent insurance agencies. So he kind of made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And the day after graduating, me and my girlfriend, now wife, packed up a U-Haul and drove to Cincinnati, Ohio, where I worked with my friend now and an old business partner, David, for 3 or 4 years. It was just, we joke, it was two dudes in Ohio, and all we did was tech and life science business. So we were outside of Wright Pratt Air Force Base working with government contractors, and then the Australian parent would send us these strange life science accounts: medical device, pharmaceuticals, biotech. From there, I kind of knew cyber and tech, and management liability and that type of stuff before it got much more popular. The Australian guy kind of ran the business in the ground a little bit. My partner had different life priorities, so it ended up getting divested. But I learned literally everything you need to know about running an agency. I mean, we did trust accounting, we did operating accounting, we did, associations and events we were part of, we did cold calling, we did renewals, certificates. It was pretty cool. And then I spent a couple years as a commercial producer at a couple bigger shops, and then more recently worked for another cybersecurity startup. And then I actually got to meet some folks at Erie and learned about their kind of scratch agent program, and jumped at that opportunity here in Harrisburg just a few months ago. I think we started discussions back in like February.
One thing that we say a lot on the show, maybe I say a lot, that I never kind of realized until I was in the scratch journey, is like the experiences of life. This can be personal and professional. Like those experiences craft to what you're doing. Like Sean and I have different journeys that led us to why we have a scratch agency, similar in the storyline, but different reasons of how we got to where we are, different whys. And since we've had this podcast and the listenership has grown over the years and different things, Sean and I, frequently get people that reach out and say, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this." And, my first question is always like, why do you want to do it? And like, we talk about a lot the difference in a producer and an agency owner. So different, and there's people that don't realize that difference until you get in it. And you're talking about the trust accounts, managing people, onboarding people, paying the bills, vacuuming the office, you name it, whatever it is. And I recently was talking to a young guy, might have been out of Ohio, actually. No, I think he was New York, but regardless. But I hit him with that, like, what's the why behind this, and why not go get experience at a captive, go get experience in other independents, see if it's, really what you want to do. For you, Brian, of looking at that June start date, what was the why? What was the timing behind, like, man, this is what I'm going to do this and start the scratch agency?
Yeah, it was definitely a mix of like personal and professional of the timing. Like I didn't have this big aha moment. I'd say maybe 3 years ago, I was like, I'm working as a commercial producer. Like at the end of the day, like these business owners are buying Brian. Like they're not buying, the carrier or the agency. Like at the end of the day, they're buying me and my expertise and what the process I've been taking them through. So I was like, I kind of got the confidence that I could do this. And my father-in-law and my father, business owners, and just kind of saw my whole life what kind of lifestyles they have, and sure, they work long hours, they make a lot of sacrifices, but they can go be the basketball coach on the team if they want to, because they don't have to be at a meeting Monday morning or be at the office until 5:30 or whatever, but they're checking emails 11 p.m. at night on a Saturday or whatever. So it was also personally, like I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my wife and I, make a lot of sacrifices. We didn't have a big wedding. Like we share a car. Like we don't really go on vacation, and we kind of have this pause where we don't have a newborn, but we don't have teenagers. We're like, if we're gonna do this, it's actually a really good time. And I'm 30 years old, believe it or not, with the graying hair already. So I was like, if I am going to keep doing insurance until I'm 65, I might as well, own the thing. So
it's incredible.
That is awesome. Brian, what's been the biggest lesson you've learned since you've opened the agency, since it's only been, a couple months?
Jeez, what a question, Sean. Give us
top
5.
Yeah, it's hard to narrow it down. The one thing I've learned very, very quickly is how different personal lines is from commercial lines. Most folks, especially at the kind of scratch agent meetup and just around the industry, they go from personal to commercial. I'm doing the opposite. So in a way, I almost learned how to, run before I could crawl type of thing. But just, like people lie to you straight up. Have you had any DUIs or whatever, and kind of the questions you need to ask in personal lines. And I'm like, whoa, like this is crazy. Like I've never had business owners act like that before, and just the way you have to treat the process, like it's much faster. You have to kind of, I think you said, Sean, disqualify or die, right?
Yeah.
So that's been a big thing, and yeah, implementing technology, like whether you go with like Assault or Risk Advisor, Canopy Connect, like that was really eye opening for me because I had no idea any of that stuff existed. The other thing that's really been kind of getting at me, and I've probably asked for a lot of this, but some of it's unwarranted, is just when you become a business owner, how many times you spend time or emailing or talking to someone where like they're trying to sell you something and you don't really know, you don't really know right away. So that's kind of a new phenomenon I'm having to deal with or learn. What else? Yeah, there's a ton.
Keep going, Brian.
I don't think we talk about this enough. I feel like, I don't know, 90% of the time, whatever, most of the time, the evolution is the personal line guy wants to get into commercial, right? Higher premiums, maybe whatever, insert all the reasons here. And the first thing you always hear is, I don't know commercial. I don't know,
right.
It's a scarier conversation. Sean, and you and I have talked about this all the time. What I don't think is talked about enough is the transition from a commercial guy to a personal guy. Or just, vice versa, of a personal shop or a commercial shop that wants to dabble into personal to, change the characteristics of their book, whatever it is. And it's like, it's almost like it's the same fear because it's just so different, but it's not talked about enough. And to your point, the process is super different. The speed has to be super different. The conversations are super different. And, I've found myself, and Sean and I can laugh about this, I've found myself a couple times with Sean calling me up and being like, hey, I got this question on personal lines. And I think about it like, well, what do you mean you don't know that, Sean? But like, If he came from the commercial line side of things, and Taylor Garcia, good friend of the show, good friend of ours, same situation, primarily commercial. Now he's taking over the shop. They're dabbling in both, and he's like, man, this personal line stuff is hard. I don't think people talk about that side of it enough. If you're looking to go more generalistic, if you're looking to bring personal lines into your organization, add that to around your book, whatever it is, it's the same give and take of the personal lines guys and girls going to commercial.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's also too like, and I don't think it's a part we should gloss over, is like, let's say you have commercial experience and right, Brian, and you specialize in cyber, in your head, and you probably have started to put it down on an SOP, like, hey, this is how you handle a submission to an underwriter. This is how, these are what the coverages mean. This is how the process works. You go to personal lines, now you got to redo the whole thing.
Exactly.
It's all new scripts, all new SOPs, all new different types of conversations you have to have. And I will say what probably is the hardest thing for a scratch agent to do who's just starting in commercial is, if I had to think about it, is like just new revenue coming in the door, right? And the benefit in my experience has been with personal lines. The biggest issue is you need to get revenue in the door as a scratch agent. Personal lines comes quick. I can talk to somebody today, write it today, get paid on it in 30 days. Commercial, I could talk to somebody today, order the loss runs, wait 2 weeks to get them, do the supplemental app, wait for that to come back, and then before we know it, 3 months has gone by and we're still like, working through the process, or it gets X dated to next year a lot of the times. It's, which as a scratch agent is not easy to do. That means you have to have an extremely full pipeline all the time in commercial. Otherwise, you're not going to have money coming in the door. So that's been that's what I believe is the tough part about doing it solely commercial. But Brian, how are you guys getting leads in the door from a commercial standpoint?
Yeah, I'm lucky because I do have a network of a lot of kind of IT professionals that have known me in the area for years. So like I got 5 commercial introductions in 1 week a couple weeks ago. Nice. We do a ton of cold calling. I will use kind of a mixture of like intent-based marketing tools like an Apollo or Zoom Info, where folks are searching for insurance broker or cyber insurance or workers comp, and you filter by zip code and kind of see who's doing research out there. Those are a little bit frustrating because a lot of the time they're Googling those things because they just renewed. So you have to, cross check them. We're starting to get involved.
That? Can you talk to me about that? Because, our experience has been like insurance X dates. We used to use Sales Genie back in the day. But now we use insurance X dates. It gives you hey, this is when the renewal's coming up. There's the carrier they're with. Here's how many employees they have. But the Zoom Info thing sounds interesting. I've heard about it before, but you said you could see basically what people are searching on Google. Is that it?
Yeah, it kind of goes right up to the line of, infringing on someone's privacy. It won't tell you the individual person, right? But it will tell you the domain or the company, and you can surmise it's the owner or the CFO or the HR director or whoever. I guess the industry leader is called Sixth Sense. It's incredibly expensive, but they kind of have the best, cleanest data. Zoom Info is kind of like the mid-tier player, where still pretty expensive, decent data. Apollo is the one I'm using right now. It's kind of the least expensive. I think it's $100 a month or so. And it's kind of a mix between, an intent-based marketing tool, prospecting tool, like an Insurance X Dates, with a CRM, like a HubSpot or something. So I build these, to use agency Zoom lingo, pipelines, but they're called sequences in Apollo. And I do them by industry because I think, commercial insurance, 9 out of 10 times they care about, industry specific information, or, hey, your broker knows your industry. And I will just fill those up, and it's, automated LinkedIn connections and comments or likes or whatever, automated emails. It'll create tasks to do manual phone calls. So it kind of, you open it up and you have all these different types of tasks, and different
That's
folks
cool.
or at different pipelines. So it makes me feel good because obviously as a scratch agent, we're all pressed for time. I'll randomly, be out at a networking event and see, oh, hey, my Apollo just sent, 30 emails out
That's awesome.
from me. And I A/B test all of them. So I kind of have my 8 industries with 8 touches, maybe 4 emails, 2 calls, and 1 LinkedIn or something. And then every email has an A and a B. So it's kind of like chooses between the 16 and it'll pick the one that works better. It takes a lot of kind of setup, and agency Zoom can be used a similar way. But that's how I'm trying to kind of do outbound smarter. I used to just do manual emails, manual cold calls all day, every day. I just don't have time to do the templates and the copy and pasting for the emails anymore. Yeah.
Doing I think the lead nurture aspect of it, which it sounds like Apollo does built into their system, which is freaking phenomenal. It is a really important thing to do when you're working leads. And like we just started doing that a couple months ago with Agency Zoom for the personalized leads that we purchase. And, at the end of the day, it's just keeping you top of mind for when the issue does come up, And I'll never forget the story I heard from somebody where they had this real estate agent. A couple of months go by, or maybe it was like a year that went by. He bumps into the guy at the gym, the real estate agent, and the real estate agent was like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And he's like, "Oh, I just purchased a house here, blah, 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 and we bought this other property." And he's like, "Why didn't you use me?" And he basically told the guy, like, "Dude, out of sight, out of mind. Like, I didn't talk to you for almost a year. I had 3 other real estate agents constantly reaching out to me and trying to talk to me, and I built a relationship with them." So I feel like having the lead nurture, especially on the commercial standpoint, is like it makes the call so much warmer when you do make it.
It does. There's a guy around me he's a realtor, and he sends a mailer out. I think it's every month, or it seems like it's every week. You see his face all the time, and it's just him with like a Shark Tank lady, with like a really nice professional photo, and then on the back it's all the properties they've sold and for what price. And it's like, give us a call if you're thinking about selling. And like, I've never met him. I don't know anything about him other than like, if we're ready, like that guy is going to be top of mind. His name's Craig.
It's like that T5 guy. Can't get him out of my feed.
It's expensive to stay in that Sound Harbor feed. Sean, I think back of, I think Aaron Gordon was like the first or second guest we had on the podcast when we started. And one thing that he said was that we'll never forget was like, the last thing I want is someone to say I didn't know you did that.
Yes.
I remember that podcast. And that's, I feel the same way. And one of the things I did the first couple of weeks we started is I literally just texted every single person in my phone. I was like, just so you know, I'm doing this. Like, here's what we do.
Phenomenal.
And you'd be surprised. I think I've written, I don't know, 4 or 5 things just from like random people I haven't talked to since like high school. And that's just kind of how it works. And I'm kind of at that age where people are having kids and buying houses and thinking about, homeowners and life insurance. So it's been good.
The first person that's going to get sick of your message is you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? No. Like you gotta keep putting it out there. Brian, tell us the plan. What's the plan? We're 90 days in. Is it just you? Do you have any? Did you start with any staff? Or are you just bootstrapping it? Like, what's the game plan?
It's me and all my favorite coworkers, me, myself, and I. The game
all day long, huh?
Yeah. Luckily, my neighbor at my office is a psychiatrist, so he can hear me talking to the wall if I need some help.
I got the same neighbor. It helps a lot.
Yeah, Frank, he's good. Now, I mean, the plan, honestly, in the short term, is like get to $100,000 in revenue and get a virtual employee full time as soon as possible. Long term, like I really would love it if my daughter took over the agency. She's 2 right now, so who the hell knows, if that'll ever happen. But we want to be 70% commercial, 30% personal. We want to potentially grow by acquisition. I'm looking at a commercial book it's 100% commercial, about 200,000 in agency commissions. Originally, the guy wanted like $1 million for it, which was insane. But I think he's getting more reasonable because he's like 80 years old and is looking like the $500,000-$600,000 range. Medium term, I mean, I would really like to own my own building and, have kind of a core small team. I think this idea of having like Michael Cruz's agency in 9 years would be amazing. I mean, he has a very lean, mean team, but has grown quickly. So I kind of look up to folks like him.
Let's talk about that. Hey, Sean, let's talk about the discussion of like, because I have a big team, I'm successful.
Yeah.
What about it do you want to know?
No. I just think like sometimes as scratch agency owners, you can get in this mindset of like the more people I have means I'm growing and I have a bigger business and I'm more successful. When like, and again, I put myself in the hot seat of coming from my legacy family agency, which they ran a great shop. They still run a great shop. But there was no virtual employees. There was no real automation tech, things that were replacing potential teammates that were making you more productive. And you look at it now, we talk to people all the time that have $10+ million books with a handful of people and run it productive. And they have the salesperson, they have the service team, they have the back end, and they've got, you talk about our good friend Mike Cruz, like he's got a great size agency and he's running it with virtual employees. He's running it with a lean team. And I think it's just good to touch on that, because sometimes you can get in your mind of like, oh, well, success for me in 5 years means I have 10 team members. All right, well, what does that mean?
Definition of success is different for everybody. And that's why, and Steven and I have talked about it until we're blue in the face, like you need to know clear as day, as if you were talking about your agency numbers in today's moment, what the agency is going to look like in 5, 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. Not easy to do because it changes dramatically on a weekly basis, but make it as clear as you can, because if not, what I found that winds up happening, again, just personal experience, is you wind up not being happy because you just think, or you see somebody else doing something bigger and you're like, oh my God, I need to do that. But if you have your own clear vision, it makes for a better experience.
But, okay. Yes. Wow, man. What was I just going to say? It's right here. Anybody see it? The comparison game too. We talk about this a lot, but I think it makes sense to bring it up with a scratch agent on the call who's been there for 90 days. Like, what is your journey going to look like? And I think that's important to get in your head. Like, I want, like you laid it out perfectly. My goal is to get to 100,000 in revenue, and then I want to hire a virtual employee. Okay, you have it, and I'm not going to speak for you, but you have it in your mind of, I can get to this point productively on my own to be able to afford somebody to help me get to what that chapter 2 will be once I get to 100K in revenue. So what's your focus every day when you open the damn laptop? 100K in revenue. It's not this, when am I going to hire my first producer? When am I going to be able to put my face on that billboard? This and that. 100K revenue gets me to my next point. And I think it's looking at, to Sean's point, I mean, you talked in the same sentence, Brian, you talked about 100K in revenue and potentially handing over the business to your 2-year-old. In the same sentence. So you have that long vision, which is great. But if you don't back it into these steps, you're going to just be a fish out of water and then wake up and 10, 15 years will be over and you're like, what have I done?
Yeah. Right. But it's also too, like because you're bringing on that VA, now hey, these are the SOPs I need to start building out based on the tasks I want to give them. And it just helps you reverse engineer that,
Right.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, I want to ask you a question. If there's people, which I know that listen to this, that are thinking, I want to start an agency, and we're going to call him Kevin. Okay. Kevin calls you up this afternoon right off this call and says, hey, Brian, I know you just started your agency. You're 90 days in. I'm thinking of starting mine. What do you tell him?
Don't do it. Just kidding.
Named Kevin. That was just a random name.
I mean, I think the first thing you have to ask yourself is why, and kind of what your experience and life situation is. Like, I've been at, birthday parties around where I live and talked to folks like, oh, I've always thought about it, but, I'm 40, I'm in this cushy job. I, had experience from Lloyd's of London. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. You have to be a little bit crazy for sure. It's pretty like my DSM jokes. He's like, yeah, Brian's the lifeblood of the organization. He decided to quit his job and put everything on the line for his kids and his wife to start from zero. And those are the types of people who drive growth, because they're not just gonna buy a book and sit on it, or be a legacy producer and sit on it. So I don't know what I think I would interview the person if they asked me, hey, I'm thinking about starting it. It's hard to tell people what to do, yes, no, bad, or indifferent, but I mean, I would encourage them to listen to dozens of this podcast episodes. That's what I did back in March and April to figure out am I going to do this? And if so, what do I need to think of? And I remember walking, pushing my daughter in the stroller around the neighborhood, and I was like, let's just pretend, like, let's just wave a magic wand, just pretend I'm starting tomorrow. Like, who would I call to kind of be my, trusted advisor circle to jumpstart this thing? And like, my wife and I have a friend who's an attorney. I was like, perfect. Like, I can ask her legal stuff. And I was like, I really like this business development guy I run into all the time at this accounting firm. Like, I wonder if they have any insurance agencies who are clients. Well, turns out the biggest insurance agency in my area is one of their clients. Boom. Okay. So there's the accounting company. Like, like, what tools would I start to use? Like, I knew I'd use Outlook because I've used it for 10 years, or Microsoft 365. But then I knew the IAMB had, this Catalyst thing. And like, Catalyst had all these guides for CRMs and agency management systems and phones. So I started, researching those and taking, demos. So it takes a lot of planning just to open the door, and it takes money to open the door. I think I spent $10,000 just to open the door, before anything was said and done. So
I love that.
Which everybody has, as we've alluded to, has different definitions of what that could be in your area, what you want to start with. Do you want to start with a team? Do you need to start with location? All these things, different conversation. What you said right there, though, was when you're pushing your daughter in the stroller, you said, I gotta find a community of people to help me pull this off, is what you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Kitchen cabinet.
Yeah. You have to have, and I would argue that the Scratch Agency podcast community could be part of that community, in helping and asking questions. And there's no stupid question. And I have my lawyer, I have my banker, I have my accounting person, I have this. Maybe there's the 4 members of that team that you want to bring in that you're just not ready to, but you have to bring them in. Last question is just, why do you think, as a very new startup, that's so important for you to set that foundation of your team, let's call it, to get the thing off the ground?
Well, because you're going to need them at some point. And if, the point you need one of those trusted advisors, you don't want to be messing around researching them or getting a bad one. I mean, that's happened to me too. I didn't do enough due diligence in some of these partners and wasted, $9,000 and, had to fire them and kind of right the ship, so to speak. So yeah, it is important because this is not insurance specific, but just being a new business owner or a solopreneur or whatever, it's lonely, it's hard, it's frustrating. Like, every day, nobody else is going to do anything other than you. Like,
Bingo.
you are the janitor, you are in charge of paying the bills, you are in charge of client service and new business and all of those things and marketing. And so yeah.
Our good friend Donald Champagne says all the time, as humans, we're meant to do hard things. Starting a Scratch agency is a hard thing. And I just give you a lot of credit for taking the jump. And it was awesome to meet you in DC, and looking forward to connecting and,
Thank you.
It was great to break bread with you too. We enjoyed.
Yeah, we had fun.
Sean was too cool. He was at the other end of the table. It was Sean was too cool. He was at the other end of the table. It was a great meal to get to know you better, and just appreciate you taking the time because I know you're busy cold calling, get that puppy up to take a few minutes here and join us. I really appreciate it. Brian, for anybody that might be listening to this and want to picture brand of something you said, what's the best way to just follow your journey, stay in touch with you, get in touch with you, whatever it might be?
LinkedIn and YouTube. We're just Brian Mahon.
Love it.
Perfect.
Straight to the point. Appreciate it, Brian. Everybody, that's another episode of the Scratch Agency Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. But most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, and own your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.